If you have said to yourself, I should write that, or if someone has said to you, you should write that, then I'm talking to you because you need to write. And that's why you're tuned in to yWrite. Hi, welcome to yWrite. Thank you so much for tuning into another episode of why we're learning about why people are writing and why you should be writing your story. And as a writer, there is this thing where you have to sell your books afterwards. And a lot of times it's very helpful to talk to someone who can help you get your name into the market. And today we have a guest on the show who not only can do that, but she's also written 2 books. Her name is Alison Maloney, and she is the owner of Alison May Public Relations. She is a very well-respected publicist among reporters, producers, and editors around the world. She's been a journalist for over 20 years, and she's a contributor and anchor for NewsMax. Alison Maloney's been featured in Time Magazine, Daily Worth, Dr. Oz, and Reputation Management. And let me tell you, she gets her clients featured in many varieties of media outlets, and we're going to talk about that today. In addition to talking about her book, which is called Breaking in the News, Building Buzz for Your Brand, and her first book called Rising Above. So we're going to just be excited because I want to share with you somebody that I met when my children were in preschool. This is Alison Maloney.
Thank you. That's dating ourselves, isn't it?
I know. Even saying like, oh, you've been reporting for 20 years. It's like, oh, okay, wait, now let's do the age calculation. But yeah, it's, my daughter's in her 20s,
Yes.
And we were at Smart Start, which I always love because,
it.
Our kids got a great Smart Start. And as we're raising kids, we kind of get our own Smart Start of how to become parents and juggle being ourselves in the world and being a mother.
Absolutely.
And at that time, you were starting your publicity company.
I was. I had 3 children. Hannah was my youngest, and I wish I had like this great story about why I started a business. I never had a lemonade stand. I never had a business plan, but I woke up and I said, I think I'm going to start a public relations firm. And because I had been on the other side, I had been a reporter, I knew what it took to get a story told. So I thought, okay, I could be the PR person, but I know the local reporters. I know what it takes on the other side. So I thought that would be a good fit. And obviously having children, I said, I'm going to start my business. I'll start slow. I'll take on just a few clients so I can work from home and try and have that flexibility. But I think anybody who starts a business thinks it's going to be.
You're going to set these hours.
Right. And it's not, but it was the best decision I ever made.
Yeah. So you were already reporting news then, and now you're on NewsMax.
Yes. So I had reported news for a while, and then I got out of the business because I was working nights, holidays, weekends, just that type of job where you're thinking, I'm missing out on things. So I had gotten out of the business, then, did some marketing, started the business, and never thought I'd get back in the business, but I had actually pitched a client to NewsMax and said, if you ever need somebody to talk about PR marketing, I could come on as a contributor. And then a week later, he called and said, can you come on the show? And then that was about 7 years ago. And then since then, I've launched a few shows for the network and formed a great family there, friends and coworkers. And yeah, it's been a great transition. I get to have the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's really great. And it's amazing how women especially can juggle a lot of these things. I'm not trying to insult men at all, but just juggling parenting and producing different shows and obviously making a living.
Absolutely. And I do think, I have this conversation with my friends a lot about that work-life balance doesn't really exist. And I don't really know if it does, but I think as women, we have learned as we get older to put our priorities first. So I've decided, okay, 3:00, I'm shutting it down. My emails, I'm not responding. I'm picking Hannah up off the bus. We're doing, certain things. And then I'll log back in later on at night, or I'll wake up at 4 a.m. and work. But it's setting those boundaries because we can't do everything. And we could, but we're not going to do it right.
And time management is huge. Like you said, setting the boundaries to say, okay, my phone is always kind of dinging and someone will say, where do you need to be? What do you need to do? And I'd be like, I have to pick up a kid, shut down, going to do my, mommy hat. And then, it picks back up. And like you said, waking up early in the morning to write, you're doing all these things. When do you have time to write a book? Write books.
It took a while. I had set myself with goals, but it did take a while for the first book. For Breaking in the News, I actually went, my parents live in Florida, so I decided for like 3 or 4 days I was going to be out of the office. My kids were with their dad, and I went to go write. Nice. I shut my phone off. I looked at the beach, and I wrote most of the book there.
3-4 days.
Most of it was written. The draft was written, and then I came home and had to make edits and everything. But of course, I think the hardest part for me was the editing. So my editor would send it back, and then it's rewrite, do this, change that. That was the hardest part for me.
I totally agree, and editing is something I postpone.
Yes,
I'm like, I'll get to that. I mean, I've had a book that's been sitting in the finished pile for like 2 years now, and I just needed to do some little edits. I've already done. I just postponed it, and I'm like, all right, now it's just time to get it done. And finding good editors. I mean, you're in the news field, so you know a lot of people, but you have to get someone you really trust who's going to keep your voice authentic.
You do. And so there's a couple of ways that you can do it. And when I first wrote my book, I had spoken to some authors, and some of them big where they had publishing firms. And I didn't really want to go that route because I just didn't have the time to get an agent to do a whole book proposal. There's a lot that goes into that. So I said, okay, I'm going to self-publish. Then I looked to self-publish, and I thought, oh gosh, now I have to, not only do I have to write, but I have to get an editor. I have to get somebody, I've got to figure out how do I get this book up on Amazon and up through all those places, all the formatting. I have to get a graphic designer. So I ended up going with a company that's kind of a bit of a hybrid. So I'm still self-publishing, but they have the people in-house that can help me. They have the editor, the graphic designer. So that's 40 Day Publishing. Okay. And they work with authors across the country, and you do pay them, but it's not a number that I couldn't afford. There were certain companies out there that want to charge you $10,000, and I was like, I can't do this.
How long did it take them to edit it and get it uploaded?
Their guarantee is 40 days.
Nice. I was thinking that when they said, I was like, why is that in their name?
And they do. And the holdout for me, for both, it was on me.
They did both.
They did both. And so it was more so me getting back to them with things, getting back on the edits, choosing a cover, all those things. It was all on me. They were amazing. And they were great. They're like, hey, how's it going, Alison? I'm like, okay, I'll get this stuff to you. But yeah.
So when you do them, you buy the books directly from them for your supply.
So they load it. They do it through Ingram Sparks.
Okay.
So they get everything up on there, and then I can go into Ingram Sparks. I can purchase my own books, but they create the all the codes and all that. They do it through Amazon, so it's online, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Walmart. So they handle all that back end of stuff that I don't know what I'm doing, and they're great with that.
Do you have to pay them up front to do this, or do they take it off of the residuals of what's coming in?
I think I paid a deposit, and then throughout the process I would pay them, but they don't take any of the book sales. Okay. I have all the rights. I get all the sales from the books.
And 40 days is what pays you the residuals, or?
So I get it through Ingram Sparks. Okay. So it's set through them, and then Ingram Sparks will they'll pay me. Right. I think it's like every 90 days based on the sales on Amazon and all of those places.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. All right. Well, that was very informative because I always do like to hear who's publishing with who. Right. Because everyone's like, one of the main features for self-publishing is the fact that you can get your book out.
Right.
By the time you query an agent to get a publisher, and some of them will only take so many a certain time. So you could be waiting 2 years.
You could, and working, with a publisher, it's great. There's pros and cons, and so one of them obviously is, they do kind of have a lot of control over the book too. Where if you self-publish, this is your book, and you really can do whatever you want with it. Yeah,
it's great. You did hardcover with jackets.
Yes.
Did they put the jackets on for you?
They did. Yeah, they did all of it. And so I do have like a Kindle version too. So they took care of, which was great, because then I can focus on writing. I could focus on the marketing, and they would come up with marketing ideas. But mainly,
and you could probably pay them to do marketing.
I could, but they're just like this. You have your audience. Here's what we recommend. Maybe I think it was during COVID or after COVID when my first book came out. We had like a virtual, book launch party through Facebook and things like that, so people could ask questions. and those are always still good to do.
Yeah, well, and they're giving you advice, and you're a publicity
Yeah,
agent.
yes.
So you're like, I kind of know a lot of this.
And it's interesting because I have friends, in the PR world that, whether they have a podcast or they have books, it's hard for us to promote ourselves. I could
definitely
give somebody 10 different ideas and say, do this and do that.
I'm
or
the
I
same
could
way.
do it for
I want to
them.
promote everybody.
But when it's me, I'm like, I'm in this like little hamster wheel I can't get off because I don't know what to do, because you're so in it. And where clients, obviously I love my clients and love their product and brand, but I can take a step back and say, okay, that's a good idea, but maybe we should do it this way. Or, you don't have as much personal interest in it. So, yeah.
Well, and I didn't even mention this, you do keynote talks and things like that. So having books, is a really great way when you're a speaker. And a lot of authors who have written a book, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, I don't know if they're open to the world, or they know that world, like, to do a talk and then you plug your book afterwards.
Exactly.
And your talks tie into, definitely ties into breaking into the news. The Rising Above, if you want to talk a little bit about that, because that's a kind of an anthology of stories.
It's a different book than the business book. But it's funny because I've had this book out for a while, and I keep, I don't forget about it, but because this book, is fairly new, I was focusing on this one. And I spoke at a public relations conference on Friday, and I kept, because I've been learning a lot from a lot of podcasters and people who they do soft sells throughout their talk. In my book, I talk about this, or it's not like buy my book, but they're mentioning it. In my book, I go into further detail. So it's a matter of trying to make sure your marketing aligns, with your speech. And then at the end, obviously, I mentioned, I have books, and then you have the list of people who attended. So then you can do an email blast to them. You can link your book and do special promos or whatever it is that you want to do with it. So it's a matter of being able to just get the word out through any time you're on a podcast, you're speaking, and then the goal is to obviously sell books, which is very challenging because it's hard to keep telling people, buy my book, my book. Here's why you should buy my book.
Right. Yeah. Here's why you should buy my book. And the breaking in the news, I've read it, and I found it very helpful because when you are, especially like for someone who's trying to market their books, and whether they're trying, it's a solo career.
Sure.
You're calling libraries to do book talks. You're calling the bookstores to say, can I come in to sell it? You're going to, who knows, craft fairs, vendor fairs, trying to just put word out there and getting invited onto podcasts to talk about them. But in your book, you have these little, kind of helpful hints on how to put yourself out there. Like, wear something more colorful. Don't wear, black. And it's so true because I wear black all the time. But when I come to the show here, I always try not to wear dark colors because this is dark and you don't want to blend in.
Yes.
So it's like little things like that, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, you want to stand out, or you want to have a brand, whatever that is, and to keep it consistent. So having someone, hiring a publicity agent is a really great thing. How does someone hire you? Like, what do they do? They call you and they're like, I don't know, I think I need help. And then, or do they call you with a specific project? Like, oh, I'm,
Sure, both. People will email me through my website and say, we're rebranding, or I have a new company, or we need PR because of X, Y, and Z. And it's all different, right? Somebody may have a book out. Somebody may be starting a new company. They may be going public soon. It all depends. So we depending on what they need, and I wrote the book for people that are kind of in that entrepreneur, solopreneur, don't have a massive budget for a PR agency. It's kind of a tell-all, like how do you do everything from starting to build your social media, to doing an audit, to making sure that it is consistent, that it's on brand for you, to examples of writing press releases and pitches. How do you reach out to the local media? So if you can't hire a PR team, that book kind of is a guidebook for everything you need to do. Because so many people would ask me, okay, well, we're just starting out, but we don't have a budget. And I want to help everyone, but I can't work for free. So I always would say, okay, well, get the book or read my blogs or go on my website or watch my videos, and that can hopefully help you at least start off, to try and get the word out. And there's so many different ways now that you can get the word out, especially, for a book. And I think the one thing I'll always tell people is when they have a book out, they want to get on TV or want to get in the media to talk about their book. And that's really hard because TV people get a ton of pitches of so-and-so has a new book out. So I always say, well, what's the book about and what are you an expert on?
Yep.
So if you can talk about something that's relevant in the news going on as an expert and pitch yourself as that. For example, say you are a psychologist and you wrote a book about loneliness in our America's youth, right? Mm-hmm. There's always a news peg, right? You could have a study that comes out or something. So you can pitch that and then just say, by the way, I have a new book out. The media will always plug your book, usually at the end. They'll ask you one or two questions. But if you can get in another way, that way you have more chances that they'll call you to be interviewed.
Yeah,
when
I've
you're
even
the
seen
expert.
it when you submit an article to like a magazine or a newspaper, because you can always, whatever the topic is that you're writing about in there, you're going to write a little bio line, that written by Alison Maloney, author of.
Yes.
So
and it helps. And it's one of those things, too. It is a resume builder. So if you are trying to get in the media and you did write a book, then that's good. Oh, author of, best-selling author. That does always help. It's just like that extra credential that the media will look at and say, oh, all right, they're smart. They wrote a book.
Well, and I know, and a lot of people who will come on the show and I'll say, why'd you write a book? Why are you an author? And they're like, I'm not an author. Well, you are an author. Why did you become a writer? I'm not a writer,
Right.
But it is like just the dedication and the passion to sit down to do it says volumes about somebody, because that yes, you sat down in 3-4 days to write that first draft. I mean, I did Angel's Journey in 9 hours.
Wow.
So I get the the binge writing period.
Yes.
I mean, my book Dear Baby Get Out took me a year of pregnancy, of journalizing, and then 2 weeks of really putting it together. And of course, April Rain took me 25 years.
Isn't that funny? Some books will take you a long time.
It's all different. And it's just interesting how, like, when you see the dedication that someone has sitting down to be passionate about what wisdom or entertainment story or whatever they're putting together, it's like, okay, they have something to say, and they did it. Mm-hmm. But now they want to move forward to do something else with the project. And again, a lot of times people are writing because they do want to make a living at it.
Sure.
And writing a book isn't a get rich quick.
No, it's definitely not. It's, I think you probably put more money into writing a book than what you make. But the other thing too, and if you want to build yourself, build your brand, is you can take your book. I mean, think about all the chapters and pull micro content from it. Start putting videos out there, writing on Substacks, writing blogs, to hopefully draw in people to then buy your book, because this is just, you're giving them a little piece of it.
Yeah.
So there's so much you can do with that book after you write it, other than just, being on TV, or you really, and it's evergreen. Mm-hmm. Your book can last forever. Something people have written 20 years ago, they can bring back up, and people are still reading it and still talking about it.
Yeah, it's definitely evergreen, and kind of can give you a little anxiety when you're putting it out there, realizing it's not going to go away.
Yes. Oh, yes.
It's not like a 10-minute fame thing, right? You're like, oh, you did this, and good for you, move on. It's like, no, this is going to be on shelves in libraries and in a database forever.
Yes. And the good thing about self-publishing is you can always make edits and tweaks later on, right? So because they'll print on demand, or Amazon, so it's not like you have 1,000 books in stores that are just sitting there. So that's the good thing of self-publishing.
Yeah, with Angel's Journey, that I learned that. So of course, came out, and then after you find a few little typos or something,
or somebody else one, you're like, how did I miss that?
And I'm like, really? I mean, and there's so many books, I mean, even by famous authors that I've read, and you see the typos. I mean, people are human, and I'm not judging a book or an author by unless there's a lot of typos or something. I did read, someone had sent a pitch in, and like they would do a space before every comma, and I was like, this is really hard to read.
Like, where's your Grammarly?
Yeah. It's like, okay, I want to recommend, that you need to do that.
Yeah.
But, I definitely see that there's just so many avenues to go with doing a book, where, like with yours, doing talks about your expertise, where if it's a fiction book, whether they want to take it and make it into a movie or a play, or, a podcast series or whatever, which of course is things that I do.
Sure.
But again, you hire a publicist and you say, okay, how do I get word out of this? How do I spread the word of yWrite? Or, I produce a show called Foes of Minimum Wage Guard. Like, getting that out, giving it to someone like you to do. What is that process like?
So it depends on what you're trying to, the message out, but social media is huge. I think social media, I will tell you that when we get pitches in the media, because a lot of the producers, even at the national level, they're all in their 20s. So they're all like our kids' ages. And when they get pitches, the first thing they do is they look at the person's social media profile. They don't even go to their website. They will eventually, if they do book them and want to have them on, but they're going to their social media. So it's so important to have your social media reflect who you are and who you want to be seen as. So we always tell our clients, like, let's take a deep dive and look at your social media. What are you putting out there? Are you posting consistently? Are you real and authentic? Because, we don't need to have the $20,000 videos that we used to think we'd have to produce to do these video blogs. They want to see you, with your hair in the bun and showing the real life. If you are writing a book, document it, capture it on video. People want to see that. What's the process like leading up to that book coming out? So social media is always really important to get the word out. People do buy ads, they will boost things like that. So you can always do that. And then just pitching yourself to get on podcasts, to go and speak at chamber events. What kind of events? You're not going to get paid, but you're going to get the word out and people are going to know you. And not only maybe you'll sell books, but you could build your business, build your brand. If you're coaching or whatever it is that you're doing, you have to put yourself out there and you have to be willing to do things for free.
Yeah. And a lot of writers are introverts.
Yes.
So it's very hard for them to put themselves out there, which, then they hire, a PR agency and then the PR agency is saying, okay, we booked you on this show. Or now you have to kind of coach them and train them on how to present themselves.
Yes.
Because if they are an introvert, how do you do that? How do you get them out of the page?
We do media training. So we would do something like this. We would do a pretend show. And I would be the
this
reporter.
Is pretend?
We would do not your show, but pretend. But we would do these types of these, exercises so they could be comfortable, and we would do it over and over again. And there's a point where some people are. I had worked with a client, and they. I won't say the industry they're in, but they definitely did not want to go on camera. But the goal was to get them press, and they just were very, so we definitely had to really work with getting them comfortable, letting them know, okay, we're not going on any live shows, so we can ask the reporter to ask the question again, and just kind of making them feel more at ease.
Yes.
And some people just do not want to go on camera.
Yeah.
And then, okay, well, what are you comfortable doing? Can you write? Can you do blogs? Can you do Substacks? Can you do even just graphics that you create on Canva to put on social media? Can you voice things if you don't want? Can you voice over a certain thing? So there's definitely different ways if they're not comfortable on camera.
Wow, that's really great. I assume fees must be different for everybody depending on what you're doing.
Yes.
But what kind of fees can someone expect, like to work with a PR agent? And my other question is, what's the difference between a PR agent and a media specialist?
Sure. So the media, it depends. So you have marketing firms too.
Yes.
So there's marketing, which essentially can be multiple things. You have advertising, which you're paying for ads. You have a media buyer, which is buying those ads. You have graphic designers. You have copywriters. You've got web folks. Then you have PR folks. So if you're working with an agency, you may be paying, depending on what you need, video, social media management. There's all of that.
And it is helpful to have someone do that because it lets you focus on what you're doing.
Right.
Writing a book, or, like if you're a law firm, they need to focus on doing their legal stuff.
Yes.
So to sit around and make a flyer
Right.
and do graphic design is difficult. I'm doing all of that myself because, like I said, authors tend to be solo people. But it is nice to know these people are out there, but then there's that bridge of how do you get to them and how do you budget for it? Like, can you go and say, this is my budget, what can you do?
You can. And there are people that we've said, okay, we just don't feel that we can do enough with that budget if it's a really low budget, because it's not, I can't take people's money and not be able to do what I really want to do. So I think you just have to shop around too for a lot of, different PR agencies. And I always tell people, go ask to speak to their existing clients or, because they'll give you
word of mouth is the best advertisement.
Testimonial, word of mouth, because they'll be able to give you like, okay, I love working with them, or
that's how I was when I had my flower shop. Like I loved getting clients through word of mouth. People were like, you don't do a lot of advertisement. I want people to come to me because they want to come to me. And, I want to be able to work with them with their budget, like you're saying. But sometimes, you have the champagne dreams and the beer budget. And, as a florist, I have to guide them and say, I know you want this, but this is all you can get.
And I think a good firm will obviously look at what you're looking for and look overall. They'll look at your social media. They'll look at any press you've gotten. They'll look at and say, okay, here's where I think you should focus first on. Let's not do the PR first because you don't have any social media, or your book's not out yet, or your website is from 1995. So I think that would be what a good PR firm would do, and say, okay, so here let's do one thing at a time. Let's focus on.
Do you
this.
develop websites and things like that?
We have people that we refer out. Yes, yep. Okay. So we've got graphic designers. We have all like local people that we refer out to doing things. Yes, that's how you keep it lean. You just you outsource.
Yeah. So for people who are putting out some sort of work, whether it's a book or a play or a movie or a new business, what is the first steps that they should take to contact a PR agent to help them?
Sure, I think
to contact Alison May.
So it's researching who you want to work with, obviously, and then just having a conversation with them. If their book is coming out in, say, 6 months, again, it's always good to start the buzz, right? To create that, what's going on? What are they doing? Oh, they're writing a book. So you don't want to just say, my book's coming out tomorrow. Can you help me? Yeah. Which, of course, we can. But you want to just have that build up, right? It's that when a movie's created, it isn't just the movie's out today. Yeah. They have social media. The actresses and actors are creating things. They're showing behind the scenes, coming out. They have a movie trailer coming out in, summer of 2026. So it's just getting that teasers out. So you do want to work with somebody.
Teasers is definitely the word.
A few months in advance, but you also want to look and see, what am I doing, with my overall brand that I can do now.
It's definitely true. I like how you said, talk to their clients that they've worked with, because even shopping publishing houses, it's nice to see what authors they have worked with, because then it kind of tells you, do you fit in here?
Right, because there are agencies that tend to have some of their niches. There's agencies that specifically focus on health and wellness. So that, if that was your brand, I would go with an agency because they already know all those people in that space. They know the influencers, they know all the editors, they know all the reporters who cover those angles. Yep. So if you can find an agency that's focused on your niche, there's agencies that focus strictly just on legal, law, finance, those types of things. So it's always good to just, throw in Google, ChatGPT, and see if you can find.
I don't know about this ChatGPT, but okay. AI, all this stuff.
I know. But see if there's an agency that maybe can align with who you are. There are boutique agencies that specifically focus on just doing certain things. So it's a lot of just research and seeing what's the right fit. A lot of interviewing. People have interviewed us. They've interviewed other agencies. They've gone with us. They've gone with other agencies, depending on the fit. Some need bigger ones. Some want more boutique-like firms.
How do people find out about your firm and see who your clients are and things like that to work with you? And more importantly, how can they buy your books?
Yeah, they can go on my website, Alison May Communications. Okay. We have some obviously client testimonials, but I'm always happy to put them in touch with current clients. I mean, and even former clients. There's clients that we have great relationships with. That's in the world of PR. Usually you work with somebody for a few years and then it just kind of okay, we don't need you anymore. We're good. Right. So I have all of my former clients. We're great friends. And so I always send people, talk to this person. We work with them for a few years. So they can go on my website and they can fill out a form. They can see what we're all about. And then my book is on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere online where you can get books.
All right. Well, I think everyone's going to go check it out. And you've given us a lot of information. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
This was great. Thank you so much. And I want to thank you, the listening audience, for tuning in every week, or maybe just binge watching 6 or 7 episodes every day on YouTube. I love doing this. As you see, I'm learning, you're learning. We are just all in this together because we all have a story inside of us that needs to be shared. And how you're going to tell your story, I don't know. But one of these episodes is going to help you. And today's episode is going to teach you about how to get your story into the world and do that buzz. So this is the time of the program where I give you a writing prompt because, we're here to write. So when the show is over, I want you to set that timer for 5 or 10 minutes. And, we're talking about building buzz today, building buzz around what you're doing. And whether you're writing a book or a play or a movie or a keynote talk, or maybe you're a comedian, maybe you have a business that, maybe you're a flower shop and, you're going to build up the next holiday coming up. How are you going to build that buzz? Think about where you want to see it be in, say, 3 months or 6 months or in a year. And, write down 3 or 4 things that you could do to build buzz for the event in 3 months, for the event in 6 months, for the event in 12 months. I will share personally, as a florist, literally this time of year, right here, it's September when I'm filming this. This would be where I would start doing social media posts to get ready for Thanksgiving and even Christmas, and trying to build that buzz. And I may not put it out right now, might do it, in a couple weeks, but I have to build the content. So that's what you need to do today, is make a list of how you're going to build buzz around whatever you're doing so that you can get word out. And maybe you can come on the yWrite show and talk about what you're doing. So thanks again for tuning in. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.